So here's our agenda for today. Brandy will do some audience profile questions that are always kind of fun, some icebreaker questions, and then get a sense for everyone attending in terms of where they're at with Tableau Prep and foreshadowing to our next Wisconsin Tug, which will be focused on server admin. And first up, we've got Adam Mico, who's going to share a new data FAM mentorship program that he's helping to kick off. And then we are lucky enough to have Anushka Anand, direct from Tableau HQ, join us to share the latest on self-service data prep and management. A lot of fun things happening there in terms of data lineage and integration with other tools like Python. And then we'll wrap things up with our giveaway. So again, we're going to give away a Tableau certification voucher. So engage in the Q&A, and that is where we will select our winner from. With that, Brandy, well, let's swap over to the poll. And yeah. I need to share my screen.
There you go. So if you haven't been a part of our poll before, actually, sorry, can you, go back to that tab? And in the bottom left corner, can you hit the stop button? Yeah, okay. So from right from this screen, Patrick, we can actually start the poll when we're ready. But if you haven't been a part of our meetings before, we'd like to do this audience polling just to get to know you a little bit more. Especially in this virtual environment, we find that this polling is actually pretty fun and informative. So you can either enter this wonderful URL, which is case sensitive, I believe, into your browser, or you can actually point your phone's camera at this QR code. And when you open up your camera and you point the viewfinder at this QR code, there's usually a banner that pops up at the top of your phone, and you can click that and you'll be taken to the poll. So hopefully all of that makes sense. And Patrick's gonna kick us off here, and then when he does that, you're gonna be prompted with that first question. And when you answer that question, we'll see the results come up live on this screen. So hopefully everyone is ready. Take it away, Patrick. All right, so you should see the first question on your screen, which is, what did you do for fireworks on July 4th? So live on the screen here, we're seeing that most people did not actually partake in fireworks this year. And just gonna let people enter their information for a little bit. Somebody, all right, there are a few folks that asked for the URL. I just dropped it into the chat window. Okay, next question. If you wanna hit the, in the lower left-hand corner, Patrick, is a little like fast forward button. If you click that one, yeah, it'll take us to the next question. So what have you done with your canceled summer event tickets? So I don't know if you're like me, you probably had plans for this summer, and okay, maybe you're not like me. Maybe you didn't. But what did you do? What were your options given to you, and what choices did you make? Some people didn't have any plans. I'm so glad that you weren't, or that you didn't have to deal with cancellations and all of that. I mean, there were some that I was a part of that, like, I was supposed to go to Orlando in May, and then they pushed it to the end of October. So I was just like, oh, I'll just go in October. That's fine. I can make the date work. And of course now probably won't make that either. So, but it looks like a few of you just deferred to next year's events. So, all right, next question.
Holy smokes, a lot of people using their time wisely.
Sorry, I have dogs, and the mailman had to come right now. I feel like it wouldn't be a Zoom call if somebody's dog didn't bark. So yeah, Patrick kind of handled this one, but are you spending time learning something new? A lot of people say yes. Hopefully you took advantage of like Tableau's discount on the certification or their e-learning, or maybe it was something else entirely. We can go to the next question. All right, so for data prep, what tools do you use? A non-Tableau tool, okay. Combination of tools, some people are using prep, great. So there's one lone lucky person that doesn't need to prepare their data. Everyone's jealous of you. Well, today you'll be able to learn a little bit more about Tableau Prep and how it integrates with all the other things that you do in Tableau and other tools that I know it can leverage other technologies as well. So we'll hear all about that today. Hopefully you're looking forward to it just like I am. We can go to the next question. All right. What the following best describes my experience with Tableau Prep, sorry. So some people might not know what it is. Great, you're in the right place because you'll find out. Some people have seen demos but have never used it. Well, I'm pretty sure this demo would knock your socks off. I think we're going to be getting a little glimpse into some things that are available in the newest release, so or in the release that will be coming. So you're a lucky group. All right, we want to jump to the next question. All right, how do you currently understand the impact of data source changes? If you're like me, probably the last one. Yeah, there you go. There's definitely a need here, I think. So, you know, Tableau's got some great add-ons that they've come out with that help with this process. Some people already know, well, one person already knows about that add-on, so lucky them. We can go to the next one. All right, and what level of admin do you have on your Tableau server environment? So kind of a good mix, not anymore. The non-admins took over.
Quite a few server admins.
That is true. You know, we definitely have a good showing. So I think a lot of the add-ons, I guess I don't know much about them. I don't actually have any of them. So this will be a really good learning opportunity for me. But I think some of them are, you know, yeah, obviously you can probably set them up. You have to set them up as an admin, but then can be used by all sorts of individuals. So I'm looking forward to hearing about what those are and their capabilities. Oh, and some people haven't even used Tableau Server. So if Tableau Server and Tableau Online, I don't know if you're familiar with Tableau Online, but they're very similar products. So we say server a lot because that was actually one of the first, first Tableau products that came out. And then Tableau Online is like the Tableau Server version that's hosted by Tableau. So if you don't want to administer all of that, Tableau will do it for you with Tableau Online. So, and some people just don't have Tableau Server. That's cool too. We'll certainly talk about all of these enterprise tools and you'll just be aware of them, I guess. So next question. Would you be interested in a Tableau certification study group? So, you know, Tableau obviously has a lot of certifications and learning opportunities. I know when I was studying for the certification, I did it on my own. I don't know where that motivation came from, but sometimes it's better in a group. So just kind of curious what kind of interest there is. And that's actually our last question of the day, but thank you guys so much for participating. This is really fantastic. I know somebody asked what technology are we using for this poll. There's a website called directpoll.com and it's very easy to set up your poll. So I would absolutely recommend this product. It doesn't cost anything. You don't even have to create an account, which I kind of like. The only caveat is they have to be multiple choice questions. So there's going to be no type in questions. So just as an FYI, but it's a very good tool. So anyway, thank you guys again so much for taking the poll. It's always really good to hear from everybody.
All right, thanks, Brandy. So next up, I wanted to call your attention to some new YouTube content called DataFam News. You can hop out to YouTube and search for hashtag DataFam News, and you'll find it. This is a nice weekly summary of current events, especially now that all the events are virtual. It's a little bit overwhelming with everything that's happening. But this is a weekly snapshot. It's less than 5 minutes, so it's pretty quick to take in, and it's hosted by Mark Bradbourne, who is now a Tableau employee, but that's his Twitter handle, so you'll want to give him a follow as well. But nice summary. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. And here's our upcoming Wisconsin events. So this is the Wisconsin virtual user group that we started before the pandemic, and we are going to continue. Our next event is scheduled for October 2nd, and that's going to be focused around server admin. So that, and all of these events are available from usergroups.tableau.com, and they're available for you to register and get on your calendars today. The Milwaukee user group has 2 events scheduled. In August, they'll be talking Tableau trivia, and in October, they'll be talking about advancing your career with Tableau. So lots of good stuff there. The Madison user group is going to start to focus more on local Tableau people. And in August, we'll be highlighting local COVID Tableau solutions, not only focused on COVID, but focused on how they did it in Tableau. So one of the fun use cases is from a guy at the Department of Family and Children, and he put together this cool search dashboard that enables healthcare workers to connect with childcare providers. So lots of good stuff. And all of the Tableau virtual user groups are available on demand. They've got a playlist set up on their YouTube channel, so you can hop out there and check them out at your convenience. With that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Madison's very own Adam Mico, who's senior data analyst and kicking off a DataFam mentorship program. And I'll stop my share so Adam can share his slides. Take it away, Adam.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Patrick, and thank you, Brandy and Patrick, for inviting me to discuss DataFam mentorship. And I'm excited to present this afternoon briefly about it to give you an opportunity to understand what it's about and give you more information as time goes on and resources to access. So you may be wondering what a DataFam is. A DataFam is a global community of Tableau users, anywhere from Zen masters to the newest of new users. They're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn. They're pretty much everywhere if you look for them. So with Tableau finding new people's hearts every day, and our community just grows by leaps and bounds, and the bottom tier of users are getting so great at designing, people need to learn the resources they can as quickly as possible, and also have the opportunity to link up if they want to share that with people. So this is an opportunity to link people together in a fashion that will help people be able to coordinate their mentorship and or mentees and a little bit more. So I'll give you a little bit more background on this initiative. So in the past, Vinod, he started this in May. So he had a DataFam mentorship spreadsheet in May. And basically it was a sheet that just cataloged the people that wanted to be mentored and the people that wanted to mentor. it was a basic item, and a lot of people asked me on the side if there's a way that this could be linked up a little bit more to give some privacy to some people that may not want to be known to be a mentor or to have a mentorship. In addition to that, we wanted to make sure that we could match up skills very well. It was more of a self-service spreadsheet before, and giving the opportunity for people to access forms to fill out what their needs are, what skills they're seeking, and what skills they could teach gives us a wider range of people that we could use to mentor and have the ability to be a mentee. Some people are on there for both because some people may have trouble with networking, but other people may have trouble with, but those same people may be very good with the tool. So we want to combine as many opportunities to have a mentorship for those people that need a mentor in networking or application or whatnot. So the forms are there, and they're completely private, and they're there to help people out in order to make sure that we could track everybody and then pursue further items there. So what happened is, after I created the forms, I published a blog on Sunday. That blog covered a number of topics, including what mentorship is, how to access the forms, and what the initial steps are. So at this point, we're at the steps of collecting people to mentor and mentee. And since this was launched on Sunday, we have over 60 people that signed up to be a mentee or a student, and nearly 20 mentors at this point. So we could use more mentors to help make sure that we can have coverage for all the people that are really wanting to learn the tool and or networking or have more of an involvement. In addition to that, we're going to be matchmaking people based on the skills they select or that they feel comfortable in teaching other people. So after we published the blog post, Mark Bradburn, who had mentoring meetup, and that was done in 2019, that went away a little bit because of all the other opportunities he had to work on other stuff, and he was hired by Tableau. But since this is a personal passion project for him as well, he wanted to make sure that we had the tools and to team up with Vinod and I to make sure that we could give people the most tools that in their arsenal to make sure that we have mentorship capabilities and to be able to track and monitor success stories. So we're going to be working very closely with him, and we're also co-admins of Mentoring Meetup as well to help drive the program and to get more tools for those people that could really benefit from that. And I'll share more on that on Sunday's blog, and I'll link you to the blog after the presentation in case there are any questions about the blog post. So why should you be what's mentorship mean? So I mentor 2 people right now, and they're both doing excellent work. One person is a Tableau featured author. Both people I'm mentoring have Business of the Day, and they continue to improve each week. What I like, why I love being a mentor is that it gives me an opportunity to have a front seat view. I've been there, I've worked with the tool for many years, and it's fun to be able to help others share that experience and joy that you were able to see at first. It also keeps you very sharp because they ask a lot of questions, especially if your students are really diligent and want to learn as much as possible. They're going to have a lot of questions, they're going to ask a lot of feedback and so forth. It also gives me the opportunity to provide them the ability to link up with other people that they want to meet. They may be afraid to talk to other people because they're new in the community, or they're shy by nature. So working with them, having meetings with other people that are that influence them and impact them a lot, helps them build confidence and helps them get motivated to create more data visualizations and utilize their skills going forward. Why would you want to be a mentee? There are so many reasons why you would want to be a mentee. One of them is it's hard out there when you join the data fam community because, as I indicated before, there are so many great visualizations. So as soon as you link up on Twitter or LinkedIn and see all the visualizations that are posted, you may be overwhelmed because there's so many great visualizations out there. And there are already so many people embedded into the community, you may feel a little bit lost. Having a mentor really helps you navigate those waters. In addition to that, you could find tools and resources that best suit you. There are so many free resources and tools out there to learn Tableau, whether it be blogs, whether it be even visualizations themselves, and many other resources, that having a mentor could help really guide that for you. So it's important that we make sure that we have people that could help shepherd the new flock of Tableau users in our community to make sure that they have the resources they need. And that's a big part of this initiative, because a lot of people are joining the community and kind of feel lost. I'm getting a lot of DMs all the time, and so are a lot of other people. So if we can coordinate our resources and make sure that people have the opportunity to share success stories and also share improvements with each other, it helps fuel the community, not only from a mentee perspective, but also a mentorship perspective. And one more thing I'll mention about the mentor and mentee thing. Before this initiative, and even without this initiative, there have been a ton of success stories. However, when you have an initiative and when you have coordinated resources, that really helps make sure that more people have access to this initiative and have more access to people that could help them, rather than looking and paying for stuff that they don't need to pay for or get lost in the shuffle, because we lose a lot of people in the community because, hey, I see so many things, I'm overwhelmed, I just can't deal with it, and they're not part of the community. So if we have something like this with so many people that are looking to help out and having resources accessible to those people, it's very helpful for the new people coming on board to know that there's something there for them and kind of waiting for them to help them succeed.
Hey, Adam, we've got a question about whether you match mentor and mentees by industry.
We haven't done that yet. What we're looking at this point are skill sets. So for example, if you want, and we're looking at basic skill sets and we would work from there. So there's one thing, part of the question, that is if you have any additional comments or anything you would like to share, that's where you would share more information about if you want industry specific mentorship. And that would be something I could certainly add to the forums, because I think that's a good idea, especially if you're in accounting and whatnot and you want accounting mentorship. But however, if you learn the tool and learn a lot of the resources from the tool, regardless of the mentor and their industry, you should be able to get going in the right direction with a good mentor, regardless of their industry. But yeah, that's a good point, and I'll definitely add that to the form. I'll mark that down right now.
And do you let people outside of Wisconsin participate?
Yes, this is a global initiative. So far we have people from all over the United States, from India, from England, from Africa. So it's pretty much everywhere. And there's people in Mexico as well. There are people speaking multiple languages too. English is a primary language with the DataFam community because we would prefer to speak in one common language, and most people in the community speak English. However, there are blogs in Spanish, there are blogs in a number of other languages as well. And that's one of the questions I do ask, if you speak another language too. So we have mentors that could speak, I believe it's 4 languages now that we could assist with. And the more mentors we get and the more languages that we can cover, the more helpful it could be to people not only that speak English, but people from other countries too that don't primarily speak English. Good questions. Any more questions?
We have one question. Well, actually, we have a few more questions, actually. Very popular. So actually, in the chat window, somebody asked, they said that they're learning through the Tableau e-learning and they only have Tableau desktop access. Can they still sign up as a mentee?
Oh, definitely. And you could also have access to Tableau Public. It's a free application that you could download and use. So if you have Tableau desktop, that's great. If you have but even better if you download Tableau Public so you could share your data visualizations with the person that's mentoring you. That will give them an opportunity to provide feedback and give you an idea of what's going on with your data viz and how it could be enhanced depending on what you're working on. Because even the most veteran users of Tableau could use enhancement and feedback. We all do. So don't be afraid to share your vizzes publicly, or even on Tableau Public. If you don't want everybody to see it, you could hide it and send a link to your mentor and say, hey, take a look at this and see what you think, and provide some constructive feedback for me. Everybody in our community is very good about providing feedback that's not meant to upset people, and they're very skilled at providing feedback that's constructive and thoughtful. So that's very important. And the people that have signed up for mentors so far have been great people, not only at providing feedback, but communicating with the community, and they want to do a little bit more even. And that's why they want to be a mentor.
That's great. A few more questions, and I don't want to go too far over because I know we're already kind of bleeding into Anushka's time, but so I guess I'll ask you one more, and then if you have some time, you can probably type in your answers directly to people in the Q&A window, if that's okay,
Sure,
Adam.
sure.
But I think the question that I'll kind of pick out is, what are you looking for in a mentor? Is there a certain amount of, like a certain skill level that's necessary to be a mentor?
Yes, as far as, and this is sort of subjective, but as far as a skill level is concerned, I would want you to be at least an intermediate skill level. Doesn't mean you need to necessarily have your license or certifications. There are a lot of Zen masters that don't have certifications. I won't name names, but I know a lot of them. The thing is, though, is that you want to have some basic understanding of the tool to help others. In addition to that, if you are better skilled at design, that would be something you could help other people with, because a lot of people in our community have difficulty learning design and understanding the principles of design. So if you're kind of a newbie with Tableau, but you're an expert graphic designer, that would be helpful as a mentor too, because there's so many people already asking for help with design. In addition to that, if you are a social media savant and have a lot of networking capabilities and skills in that realm, that would be helpful too, to help a lot of people develop their soft skills. A lot of people have good skills as far as working with the tool. We have a lot of intermediate users that are signing up as mentees. However, they may be fearful of their ability to network. They may not know a lot about soft skills. They may feel that their design is not up to par. So even if you're a modest, you have modest experience, like 6 months experience with Tableau, or even a little less, you could help out in a number of other ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There are definitely a few more questions out there for you to ask or to answer if you want to take a look at that Q&A panel.
I'll jump in. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Great.
Next up is our, I am off mute. Next up is our keynote speaker, Anushka Anand, coming to us directly from Tableau HQ in Seattle. Currently not physically at the HQ, working remote. But we're thrilled to have Anushka with us. She is the Senior Product Manager at Tableau. With that, I will stop sharing so that she can share her presentation. Take it away, Anushka.
Sure. Thank you, Patrick, for the intro, and thank you, Patrick and Brandy, for the invitation. Let me get the sharing going.
Got it.
There we go. Thank you for that poll in the first part. That was really interesting. So what I will talk about today is give you an introduction to Tableau's point of view on self-service data management. And that will be about 10 minutes. And then the brunt of this talk will be focused on demos. So you'll get to see what Tableau Prep is like. And then I'm going to focus on some of the newer features that came out in the last 6 months or so, including ones that are currently in beta. And then I will give you a quick glimpse at the end about Tableau Catalog and Conductor and take questions at the end. Feel free, since it's hard to do the interrupting me with questions, feel free to write questions and Brandy will steer them to me as appropriate. So a little bit about myself. I have been at Tableau about 8 years now. I spent a large chunk of that on the Tableau research team, working on things like recommendations, which are now in the product. But I joined the Tableau Prep team before we were even a product, trying to figure out what the first version was, working with folks like Patrick on some early beta feedback to try to help us figure out what's a good enough MVP. And since then, that was April 2018 that we launched the first version. With Tableau Prep, we do monthly releases of new capabilities in the product. And so it's really an exciting product to be part of because of the faster pace of delivering value. So with that, let me tell you about what we will talk about today. So if you look at the whole Tableau suite, we offer a lot of self-service analytics, which a lot of you are familiar with, a lot of smart capabilities in the platform, and then self-service data management, which is sort of the newer offering. And then we have the whole platform as is. So today, I'm just going to talk about the self-service data management piece. And you might wonder, what does that even mean? Why do I care about data management? Well, to use a lot of the capabilities in the product, so if you think about building visualizations or using some of the newer smart capabilities around ask data or explain data, you often have to first find the data. You have to know that that data is the trustworthy data that you intend to use. And often you need to reshape or prepare the data for these questions or analysis. And if you are an admin or a data steward, you want to be able to govern that data. So when you make a change, you aren't just crossing your fingers and hoping that everybody knows that you've changed data in some drastic way that affects their analysis, right? So that's sort of where we got into this space to see what are the big trends that are happening with data management. There are two large trends we saw. One is around data. And it's not just that there's more data, because that's been happening for a while. It's more interestingly that there's more diverse data. And that used to mean like you've got different formats like JSON or XML. But really what we saw with our customers is that we have a lot of different data in the sense of you've got enterprise data, but you've also got departmental data or data that's relevant to my team. And so a lot of this data is often not centralized because most centralization focuses on the enterprise data. But if you have quick one-off things around small forecasts or small analyses, those are often sort of team-specific data or even personal data. And so then you've got this whole set of data that's not quite managed, not quite governed, but still really important to get right. On the other side, we've got people. And it's more so now that analytics is sort of expected of people for their jobs, right? You're making more decisions and it's important to consider data. It's important to analyze it, prepare it, and get the data right. So we see a lot of people now getting access to data and access to tools for analyzing data. So those are sort of the two big trends that we were seeing. And a lot of the tools that are built around getting access and preparing data for analysis were really designed for IT. So what that leads to is a lot of duplicated data. So people make copies so that they can sort of shape it, add new columns, add new features that are relevant to a particular analysis. The problem with that is then there's multiple copies and you don't know what data to trust. And at that point, sometimes IT comes in and says, okay, we got to walk this down, figure out what the right set is, and this all adds a lot of complexity, a lot of time to actually get insights and do the analysis. So what we wanted to do is create a convergence. We saw a lot of these point solutions in the industry. So you've got a lot of these data cataloging solutions where you can look at the data lineage, you can discover, certify data, but you can't really finish an end-to-end task. Because if you need to prepare your data, you need to pull up another tool to combine and reshape the data. If you want to understand what is the master trustworthy data, that's often in another tool that defines descriptions and so on. Then when you actually want to access it, you have to go request permissions off of somewhere else. And lastly, when you're actually putting together analysis, that's often in another tool where you get information about the semantics and how do I build it out into a visualization. So we see the opportunity here to build a self-service data management platform on top of the analytics platform that you're already familiar with. And this gives us the ability to let you centralize data and share it throughout your organization, as well as be able to understand how it's being used. So self-service data management for Tableau is about helping people govern, discover, trust, and operationalize their data pipelines. And that comes up in 3 different ways. The first is Tableau Prep Builder. So that's the tool that lets you prepare your data. It's a very visual, direct tool, and we will go into a lot more detail about that. The second piece is Prep Conductor. This helps you operationalize your flow. Your data preparation flow, you really want to be able to scale it out to your organization and monitor it. And that's core for Conductor. And the last piece that sort of puts these things together, as you have more people preparing data and creating data sources, you want to be able to govern that data so that it's easy for analysts to know what data they can trust and that they can discover the right data. So I'm going to talk about each of these in detail. The first one is Tableau Prep Builder. And so just at a high level, I wanted to give you a sense of what makes this product different. So our intent when we built this product was to help democratize data prep. It's the part of your job, if you're an analyst, that supposedly takes 80% of your time. We wanted to help shrink that down and let more people actually get to do analysis. And so what you will see is that the tool is very visual. We help you see your data everywhere and you can interact with it. So it's very easy for users to experiment, to try and to fix their data and understand what the impact of that change is. Since I'll show you more about it, I'm not going to go through all the points. The other point I want to make about the tool is that we've built in a lot of capabilities to make it feel smart. And what I mean by that is you don't have to worry about how do I compute this join or this complicated calculation or aggregation. Do I need to think about running this complex operation in the database or somewhere else? We leverage Tableau's federation engine, which basically says, I will look at all the transformations you've put in this data prep flow, and I will optimize them. And if possible, I will actually push down the SQL to your source databases. So that way we're leveraging the investments you've made in sophisticated databases. And so that's something that sort of takes the burden away from the analyst to having to think about optimizing a data prep flow. And the tool tries to do it for you. And then the last piece is that we're integrated with Tableau. And so if you're familiar with a lot of the things in Tableau Desktop, you can leverage them really easily in prep. So that means the calculation language is the same, and the data connection experience is the same, and so on. And then I think I got a quick, I'm just going to give you a glimpse about Conductor. So if you're not familiar, Conductor is basically the product that lets you operationalize your flow. So you can publish it to server or online, and you can schedule it. You get to monitor how it's been running. You get alerting. You get a lot of things that if you're familiar with using extracts on server, the experience around alerting and monitoring is very similar. So again, the integrated with Tableau is key so that you don't have to try to learn a different mental model for things. Okay, so with that,
Hey, Anushka, do you want to take a few questions now, or do you want me to save them all till the end?
oh, go ahead with questions. I was just going to switch over to a demo.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I just think there are a few questions that seemed really timely. So one of them is, you kind of talked about IT and their role in these tools. And I guess one of the questions is, what do you suggest if they want to, or maybe the question's more around need to, lock down Tableau Prep in terms of access and usage? I assume to like data sets and things of that nature. Is it, if somebody's using Tableau Prep, I mean, I guess maybe this is the first question, but do they use like kind of maybe their Windows credentials as they access data? Does that kind of get passed through?
I think it depends on how their security policies are for different data sources, right? Like the way that you access data in Tableau Prep is the same as desktop in terms of, you have to have permissions to access data in whatever databases you're connecting to. You have to, if you want to publish a data source, the permissions to do so are the same as if you could publish a data source from desktop. So it depends on what the situation is, and maybe
absolutely. That's a great answer. And then I guess other questions would be like, so somebody asked, if you have a Tableau desktop license, do you also get Prep, or do you need an additional license for that?
Right, so I can cover that later too in more detail, but Tableau Prep Builder is available for everyone who has a creator license. So for desktop, you often, if you're on the subscription model, if you have Tableau Desktop, you have a creator license. So that means you have Tableau Prep Builder with the same key, the same Tableau creator key would work. I'm going to jump to a demo really quickly and then questions after.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is, hopefully everyone can see it. So this is Tableau Prep. I have connected to 3 data sources just to like speed things along, but I wanted to give you a glimpse of like the connection experience. If you're familiar with desktop, this looks the same. Most of I think all of them, when you actually click on them, the experience is exactly the same. You have to enter the same kinds of things. And so that's another piece where it's very easy to move between the products. So here, what I'm actually doing is looking at data from the Eurovision contest. It's a giant music contest in Europe. I've got data about historical scores. I want to add rows from 2018 to those scores, and I want to join in location information so that the end data set has all the scores plus location info. So at the top here, you're seeing sort of the flow pane where we sort of show you the overview of how your data preparation flow is being built. So I'm going to just click into one of the steps. So this is what we call a clean step. I'm going to make this a little bigger. And this is the 3-pane view for Tableau Prep, where you've got the data flow on top. At the middle, you've got what we call our profiles. So these are essentially histograms, or they show you the distribution of the data in every field in your data set. And it's a really good way for, if you're not familiar with your data set, really, you get to inspect it really quickly. You get to click on values and understand relationships between other fields. You also get to look at the details of those values down below. So that's sort of the spreadsheet view of your data. And this is helpful when you want to understand if you've got really weird values that you don't expect. If this were the case, I could directly take an action and say, I want to exclude it from my data right here. I don't need to search for a filter. I can just right click, delete, it gets rid of it. And essentially it's creating a filter. But I'm going to keep this data here. If you see, this data set has a whole bunch of, it has 45 rows, but 17 fields. And a lot of them are these points and places for different years. And if you are trying to build a time series or a line chart in Tableau Desktop, you know that what you need to do is sort of pivot this data so you've got one field for all the years and then all of your measures that you want to draw. So to do that, I'm going to go up here and say I want to pivot. And then I can actually say I want to take all of the point data. I can shift select them and drag them into this area. And that's how I say I want to pivot a bunch of fields. On the right, what happens is it actually gives you a preview of what that end result is, to my point before about letting you understand what you're doing. So you said you wanted to pivot. It created one measure for the points, one with all of the field names, and it shrunk my 17 fields down to 11. I can do the same with places. And so if you want to pivot a bunch of columns together, you can sort of add a pivot and do that here. This is great when you have survey data and you have to pivot a whole bunch of columns together in a coordinated fashion. So the years are the same, but the place and the point values are sort of pivoted together, if that makes sense. And I'm going to just give you a glimpse of now what your data set looks like. It's just got 4 fields, very small. I've taken that really wide table, made it a long, short table. And I can do things here like, I think, oh, speaking of recommendations, we have recommendations in this product as well. And it tells me that I see a very consistent pattern in all of your values. You might want to split your values. Turns out I do, because I want a field with the years. So I can take that. I can say I want this to be called year. And that's essentially how you do a bunch of cleaning operations in prep. And for every action you do, it's tracked as a list of changes. So when you share this out with someone else, or you come back a few weeks later, you can understand what you've done to get the data in the shape that you need. You can even like step back in time and see what things look like before actions were done. So it's really great if you have data that's changing and you come back and you want to understand what has caused a result that you may not have expected. Okay, I'm going to rush through some other things just very quickly to show you how you do an operation like a union. It's a drag and drop. I can take the 2018 scores, say I want to create a union. And the very tricky thing with unions often is merging fields that are misaligned, because when you're trying to append rows, but the tables have different names for fields, you spend a lot of time bringing them together. And you can kind of do that pretty quickly here. So I can say points. It gives me a recommendation for the, based on the data type and the name that I might want to bring in point, place, and place. So let me do a bunch of merging, country and country. And there's a little few data fields that I could get rid of because they don't actually provide any value. I'm not going to do that amount of fixing up here. What I want to do very quickly is show you a join. So if I try to bring in the location information, here is the join experience in Tableau Prep. When we were building the product, we talked to a lot of customers about how it was really hard for them to understand what happens when you join data. There's often a bunch of rows that get excluded and they don't get an easy way to see that. Well, this view on the right bottom, on the left bottom, lets you see what data comes in from different tables, and what was included in the join and what was excluded. It also picked a join clause for us by default. In this case, it's the year, which is actually what I wanted, and it did an inner join, but you can easily change that. Here you get a preview of the 2 fields, so it's really helpful to understand all the things in red were not matched here. But that makes sense, so you get to see that, and it only picked the last 10 years because that's the data that I had scores for. That's fine. So this looks like what I expected, and I can go ahead and say I want to create an output at this point. You might want to do some more cleaning, but this is, again, just a demo. So what I wanted to communicate with the output is that here you get the ability to output to a published data source. So this is the point I was trying to make before about if you have permissions to write out to server and publish a data source in desktop, it's pretty much the same thing. You can create a published data source and pick the server, pick the project, and very similar experience as you are familiar with. The other thing we let you do is write out to a file, and that today is just a hyper extract and a CSV file. Right. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go back to the slide deck very quickly because I want to highlight a couple of newer features and then show them off in other versions of the product. But is there any question about the demo so far?
Well, we have a few open questions, but first of all, Matt Frazier said, whoa, that was cool. So well, that's great. But I think there were a few kind of technical questions. So does Tableau Prep integrate with other Salesforce tools like SFDC billing and CPQ?
I do know that we connect to Salesforce Sales Cloud, I believe. So I
Are
think
these the same data connections that you have in Tableau Desktop? Are they kind of like the same?
so the Salesforce connector that we have, I should not have done that because I don't actually want to connect to Salesforce. The Salesforce connector that we have in Tableau Prep is would work the same way as the Tableau Desktop Salesforce connector. So I don't believe that we connect to specific products. So
Sure. Yep, no, that's a great answer. Another question related to kind of what it can connect to. Tableau Prep or Desktop for visits using JSON files, can they automatically be updated in the server?
So Tableau Prep does not have all the connectors yet. The Desktop has, and I believe we currently do not connect to JSON. So if you're referring to using the JSON connector in Desktop and expect the same in Prep, that does not exist yet today. It is definitely on our backlog.
Okay, great. I'll just throw one more out at you for right now and then let you move on. But let's see, will this presentation be uploaded to YouTube? So first of all, just generally, this whole presentation, this whole meeting is being recorded and will be on YouTube. But the question for you is, where can we find the Eurovision data set?
Oh, interesting. I can share it with this group after, probably. It is publicly available, but I don't remember where I got it from.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, so I just wanted to give one customer quote. So this is Freddie Mac. They presented at the IT Virtual Summit last year or earlier this year. Time is a blur, but basically they showed off how they use Tableau Prep to take this manual multi-step slow process for reporting down to a few minutes, and basically are able to report at a much greater frequency. The key to it was being able to have a flow that anyone could audit, so that when they shared it across, everyone was on the same page about exactly what was being done to the data. So that's an example of how having a visual tool that's tracking every change is actually helpful to changing your processes. And so now I want to talk about a couple of sort of recent features. It's not quite so recent, but it will get there. Starting with the script step, which is something that we introduced in the fall. And these features sort of make Tableau Prep fall more in line with being an enterprise data preparation tool. So you can think of it as helping the tool scale. There are a lot of functions that we do not support, right off the bat in Tableau Prep, and you can do them like, things like forecasting. You can do them in R or Python in a script, and you can integrate that into your data preparation flow. An example of that is this very simple data classification case. So if you've ever at all taken like Machine Learning 101, you learn about the iris data set, which is about a bunch of flowers, and you want to classify the type, the variety. And so I've loaded that data set into Prep, and I have a script step here that lets me choose between R or Python. So if you want to use Python, which is what I'm using in this case, you need to basically start your, I ran this before, you need to start your tab.py. So very similar to the Python integration in Tableau Desktop. You need to have a tab.py server. You also need to be able to then connect to it. So let me just do that very quickly. Once you're connected to that TabPy server, you pick the file that you want. Oh, I should have opened that, but basically here is my file. It's a very simple, very simple Python file. I'm making a few predictions. I'm taking the data set, calling out a simple classifier, and then I'm specifying the output that I want. So if you notice, I had before, oh wait, cancel. So what I had before was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields of variety in there. It might be a little slow because I've had this running for a while. But essentially, here you can change the schema that you're getting back. So I have added in a field called predictions. I tell Tableau I want you to call the function make predictions. And then I get back new data. And I was telling Brandy and Patrick before, this is a way for you to potentially edit the whole data set. So I just added one column here. You could add multiple columns. Like I could have the actual prediction of the variety. I could have some prediction scores or probabilities and so on and so on. And so it's an opportunity for you to really adjust your data. This is not working out. It's usually much faster, but I've had these things open trying to do stuff for a while. Okay, there it is. So what happens when you call out to that script is it actually runs the script on TabPy and then it returns whatever data you want back to Tableau Prep. So you get the ability to inspect it right here. So if the data isn't what you expect, you can go and adjust your script and so on. And so you can have that dialogue very easily with the two tools. And so it's just a glimpse into how the script step works. So I'm going to go back to other cool features that we've released in the last 6 months or so are custom data roles. So if you're not familiar with this, basically this lets you, as a user who knows about your data and wants to share something out with your organization or your team, you can set up the standard way to represent something. So if I have a bunch of broadcaster companies, I want to say this is the standard set I want everybody in the company to use. I can publish it as a data role. What that does is essentially publish that dictionary of values out to Tableau server as a data source essentially. And then other people who are bringing in data can say, I'm going to tag this data as broadcaster. And what it allows them to do in prep is see what are the invalid values versus the valid ones. So it's a great way for helping other people standardize a data set based on like the standard representations. Like we use it internally for like department names, because as things change, you want one standard set so that you can do your analysis and get the right counts for things. So that's custom data roles, and that was also in 2019.3, so a while ago. Another really useful feature if you're thinking about using prep as a team is being able to share parts of a flow with other people. So if you've got like the standard way to clean up product names or do some address validation, and that could even include a script step calling out to some server to do address validation, you can publish that little snippet of a flow out as a reusable set of steps, and other people can just insert it into their flow and keep going. It's a great way to, again, like standardize a way of doing data preparation across a team. Now, if you do have Tableau server, because we ship monthly, there's sometimes these confusions around what's compatible with the server that I have, because I don't move my servers as frequently as I move prep. So what we launched earlier this year, we heard a lot of this customer frustration, so we responded by adding an ability in the product for Tableau Prep to warn you if you're going to use some features that aren't compatible with server. And that's only useful if you're thinking about publishing your flow so you can run it on a schedule. And then I briefly talked about the Salesforce connector. So this came out in May of this year. And then another feature that I will show you a little demo about is the ability to incrementally refresh data. So you've got a large flow, it's processing all your data every time. Well, suppose you've got transactional data like sales data, it comes in every day. you every day want to run your flow to just process the new data. Well, since May, you can do that in Prep today with different output options as well. And I will show you an example of that with the write to database capability. So this is currently in beta, and I will give you a little preview of what that looks like. So beta. So the flow exactly isn't interesting. This is more about looking at what is the ability to write out to a database in Tableau Prep look like today. It's, I think, basically a snapshot of the, a snippet of the Superstore. So it's not very exciting data, but what is interesting is how we let you choose what you can do with it. So at the output step for Prep, you get the option to write out to a database table. I think I should. I did not do this right. Hold on, I'm gonna do that again. So while I load this up, maybe if there are questions, I'm happy to take that. Yeah, figured.
Yeah, great. So I guess there's a simple question. Is there something like captions or annotations that you can detail business logic in a prep flow?
Ooh, captions. Oh, totally. Yes, yes. Let me give you an example. I believe it's here. I can add a description. Hold on. I'm gonna stop my sharing for a second while I pick the right file. Yes, there is the ability to write a description to a particular step in the flow. So at the top where the flow level, you can do that at that level. You can also, for every change that I was showing you on the list, you can add a description there as well. So you can sort of document everything.
Awesome. Fantastic. And why would you choose to kind of like save the output to a hyper file versus like a published data source?
If you don't have Tableau server, then your only option is like local extract. So that would be one reason to use a hyper local extract. Also, publishing it basically says that you're ready to share it, and sometimes you're not actually ready to share.
And a published data source really is hyper under the covers anyways. It's just whether you're kind of saving it locally or publishing it to like a server or online or something, right? Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Connect to database. Come
on. Another question would be, can you get alerted when the hyper extract is refreshed from Prep to know that it's successful?
Yes, yes, you can. And so I will get to that on Tableau server. So that's more of a, I've scheduled, well, maybe I'm under, so there's two things. One, when you create an output, you can run the flow right now to publish to the data source on server. If that fails, you get a notification right here in the app that it failed and that there's some error. Maybe your connection has failed or your password setting somewhere has failed. So you get that notification right in this product. If you've published the flow and it's running on Conductor and it's on a schedule, if any of those fail, you can see them in the run history. So very similar to Tableau data extracts, which have a refresh schedule and they have a history, you can see that as well there. And you can look at the error, you can click on the error, get a more detailed message, and then figure out the problem.
Great.
Okay, so I fixed the connection. Here is me connecting to a database table. So with the first version of us being able to write out to databases, you can write out to 7 databases that are listed here. So SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, Redshift, Snowflake, Oracle, and Teradata. So in this example, I'm using SQL Server. And then very similar to the input connection experience, you pick your server, you pick the database. We'll do a database test, and then I can pick a table, which I was gonna just rewrite an existing demo table. And so this is the interesting part with the refresh options. So when you write out a table, there are 3 things you can do with that table. One is you can create a new table. So if you've got the right permissions to be able to create a table in this database, you can do that today. If the table already exists, essentially we would drop that table and create a new table with the schema that you've got in the flow. The other option is the ability to append to a table. So that says if the table exists, I will add rows to that table. If the table doesn't exist, and it's the first time I'm running this flow, I can create that table. And then a related one is replacing data. So if you do not have permissions to create a table in the database, but you essentially want to blank out the table and replace all of the data with the data in here, that's this option. So those are the current options available. And I know there will be a question about the ability to update rows in the table. That is something that we are currently working on. So it will come out sometime soon. So here, say I want to create a table, you can do that. And then I can say run flow. And at this point, it's going to essentially take all of the transformations that were here and run the flow, generating data and pushing it, essentially creating the table there. The other feature I wanted to quickly highlight was incremental refresh. So how you set that up is you go into your input, because you kind of need to tell us what input do I need to look for finding new data, right? So I say, I've got sales data from a database, that's transactional data. I want to set it up for incremental refresh so I can create a schedule that only picks up new data every day. Okay. So I'm enabling incremental refresh. I need to tell you how to detect new rows. So I've got a row ID column, that's an incrementing field. And then what this lets you do is say, okay, let me query the output, look for the row ID that was last processed, and then tell the input to give me everything that's greater than the last ID that I processed. And that's essentially how we get new data into this flow. And so now that flow is set up for incremental refresh. You can actually change what you want the output to do with incremental refresh. So if you notice, I can say, when I'm doing a full refresh, I want to create the table. But when I'm incrementally refreshing data, I want to append to this table. So I'm only going to add rows. And that brings up a new experience here, because if you're adding rows to a table, it's really important that the schema is the same. And so we offer you a way to look at the schema that exists in the flow and the schema that we've detected in the existing table. And if there are any inconsistencies, they would show up as unmatched field. But since I just created the table, it's got exactly the same schema. But this is just an indication of what we're doing with the right to database feature. And as I mentioned before, it is currently in beta for the 2020.3 beta. So if you have tried, early releases, this is where you go to to join the beta program and join any pre-release program in Tableau. Okay. I see that I'm almost out of time, so I'll give you a very quick rundown into Conductor and Catalog. I'll just spend 5 minutes and we can do another deeper thing about that at some other point if interested. But this is the flow, and if I had taken the time to publish the flow, basically that takes you into this view. So this is Tableau server, and I've published the flow. You get this page, which tells you, here's the snapshot of what the flow looks like. It tells you what your outputs are, what your connections are, and so on. And because I've set this flow up for incremental refresh, I can choose to run this flow with a full refresh or an incremental refresh. That means that when you go in to schedule a task and say that I want to set up a schedule, I can say I want an hourly schedule to do an incremental refresh, and you can do a daily schedule or a weekly schedule to do a full refresh if that's what you want. And then the aspects that are related, someone asked about run history. I have not run this flow yet, but this is where you would be able to see every scheduled run, how many rows were generated, did it succeed or fail. And then the last tab that you see is something that's part of Tableau Catalog. I'm going to show you that for a different data source because it has more interesting data. So this is the this is a data source about COVID-19 cases. And the lineage page here, so, you know, it's got all these familiar tabs. If you're familiar with Tableau Server, which maybe there were a few of you who do not have Tableau Server. Tableau Server lets you publish a data source. You get the experience to sort of see a snapshot of the data, look at connections and so on. The new thing with Catalog is this lineage tab, which lets you see on the right the snapshot of everything upstream of me. So this data source actually connects to one database, uses one table, is used by, so downstream, is used by 2 workbooks. There are 18 sheets across those workbooks, 2 dashboards, and there's 3 actual owners here. Those owners are the workbook owners as well as the data source owners. So now, if you come in and you change that, you're the data source creator, you've, you know, updated the definition of one of these calculations, and you want to know, who do I contact? So I'm not, you know, emailing my whole organization, but I'm just emailing the people who were affected to tell them about the change. Well, for one, you can see who are the people who actually use this field. Okay, now I can go down to the owners. These are the 2 actual people affected by that. I can select that and I can choose to send them an email saying, I just changed the definition of whatever. You might want to update your dashboards, or maybe this is the new definition for this calculation. So this is a way for you to sort of take control and understand the impact of changes that you are making with a data source to only inform affected people. And as you notice, the lineage tool sort of helps you understand that you've put in a filter and you're only looking at a few affected people. Another part of Catalog is around the actual dashboarding. So let me go into dashboard. Let's look at one of these dashboards. This data source, I've actually done this right before. You can set up a quality warning. So if I want to say, I'm enabling a warning on this data source, it is under maintenance. So I want to warn everybody using this data source, or actually looking at a dashboard that uses this data source, that this data source is under maintenance. I can say I want high visibility. What that does is, if you then go into this data source, the dashboard, it will show you a warning right at the top that says, this data source is under maintenance. So that if you're just a consumer of a dashboard, you get to be made aware of things like, you know, dashboards and oh, here it is. Important data quality warnings affect this view. It tells you that it's under maintenance. You could have put the database could be under maintenance, and so on. So you get an easy way to communicate that out to all the people, not just the people who are authors of views and dashboards, but also consumers of data that's being generated by you. So a lot more control. And this data details pane is part of the Tableau catalog in terms of information that we provide. We give you a snapshot about the data source. We actually also tell you information about fields in view. So if you've got calculations, sometimes it's really hard for users to understand, well, what does this calculation actually mean? I don't want to go and edit the workbook, but I want to understand if the calculation is what I expect. Well, you get a little view about that right here now. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna stop sharing.
That is so cool. Like, yeah. I mean, you know, I think, I don't know about anybody else, but I've heard of prep before. Seeing it in action is really cool. Seeing how it can connect to Python is just like the endless possibilities. But then the data catalog stuff is like, you know, from an admin perspective, just so extremely powerful. And it looks like, you know, you can make that information available to end users. So there's absolutely impact to everybody who uses Tableau Server as well.
Exactly. So it's not just the creators who get value from catalog. It is all the way down to the viewers who are just looking at a dashboard. They get immediately informed about whether they can trust this data. They get to understand the descriptions of data, and they can even go back to the lineage as well. So yeah, that's what I have to share, and I'm going to stop here so I can take some questions because I see that we have just a few minutes left.
Well, thank you so much, and sorry to make you rush through that Tableau catalog. I know that you just scratched the surface, but I think you left us probably wanting more, which is always a good place to end things. So, so this is fantastic. I'm sure we'd love to have you back to dive a little bit deeper into that. I can take a few minutes and give you a few questions if you'd like. And then, you know, we have 7 open questions. So first of all, I'll just ask people, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A panel. The Q&A panel is where we're going to be choosing the winner of today's giveaway, which is the voucher for a Tableau certification. So that's your place to ask questions. I'm sure that you guys are all going to start throwing stuff out there. So I apologize if we're not able to get to everything. But Anushka, if you have a few minutes and you want to take a look at that panel, as Patrick and I wrap up and you want to answer any questions, that would be great. But I will throw a few out at you right away if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So, you know, someone asked if there was a book that you would recommend you know, picking up to learn more about Tableau Prep. Do you know of anything? Has Ryan Sleeper written a book about Tableau Prep yet, or anything like that?
I don't think that there's a book out about Tableau Prep, which is an opportunity, I guess.
There you go. You could be that person. You can write the book. Yeah.
I think what we do have is a lot of online learning and e-learning available for the products. But
yeah. So then somebody asked a really good question. You know, how do you automate a published workflow? Is that through Prep Conductor, and do you need IT to enable that?
Right, so that's a piece I meant to get to. So Tableau Prep Conductor and Tableau Catalog are part of the data management add-on, and there is marketing material around that, which I can find and share. But those are things that you kind of both need to purchase and have your admin actually turn on. And that's part of the additional SKU.
Great. Yeah, if you're able to share a link to that marketing material either with us afterwards and we can send it out to everybody, or if you want to drop it in the chat, either way is fine. Thank you so much. And we'll do one more question. So if you write to a database with Tableau Prep, are you able to, in creating a new table, for example, are you able to define what the name of that table is, or is it generated automatically?
Oh yeah, no, sorry, I may have rushed through this. You can write the table name. You're basically creating the table. You choose to create. I chose a name from a drop-down, but you could have just entered a name for a brand new table.
Okay.
Also, you could add pre-SQL and post-SQL. I forgot to showcase that, but if you want to create the table and then create a bunch of indices on various fields, you can add some SQL, custom SQL too.
That's fantastic. Thank you again so much for your time and for taking some questions. There are definitely a few more up there, but Patrick, I don't know, we'll turn it back over to you to just wrap up the meeting.
Sounds good. We've just got a slide or 2 left here. But thanks for that presentation, Anushka. Obviously wonderful and left us looking for more. And it looks like the next slide is yours, Brandy.
Yeah. So, you know, in Milwaukee, our last meeting that we had was virtual, and we took advantage of Zoom's capability to do breakout rooms. So we actually broke out into smaller groups where we had discussions. And someone from the Milwaukee area was interested in kind of continuing to do these small group discussions because you just learn a lot, right? You get new ideas, you can build a network, you can find others who are, you know, facing the same challenges that you are. So I guess what I wanted to throw out to everybody here was, if you're interested in partaking in these small group virtual meetings where maybe your goal is to kind of talk about a specific question, and that could either be on a single topic, or specific to an industry, we'd love to hear from you. And so if you want to show your interest by filling out this form, I'll post the link into the chat window, but just let us know that you're interested. That would be great. So that's my plug for the brain dates, which brings us to our giveaway. So every time we meet, we give away a little something. Lately, we've been giving away vouchers to get certified. You know, I can think back to times in my professional past where the organization where I worked wasn't able to, you know, pay for me to get certified. But we wanted to give everybody that opportunity, even if maybe your organizations don't support that or won't pay for it. So we wanted to give you a chance to win. So what we're doing is we're picking a winner from somebody who's asked a question today. And whoever that winner is, I will be reaching out via email with the details on how to take advantage of that certification voucher. There are two options we're giving people, which is the Tableau Desktop Associate or the Tableau Server Associate exam. Those are kind of like, for Tableau Server, it's the entry-level exam. So there's kind of two levels for Server. There's the Associate and the Professional. So it's kind of that first level. With Tableau Desktop, it's the middle exam. The Specialist is the first one, then you have Associate, and then you have Professional. So the Associate's right there in the middle. You can learn more about what's kind of covered in the email I send you, but just as an FYI. So I randomly chose a number. That person, the person who asked that question is going to be the winner. And again, I'll reach out to you. So hopefully you're registered so that I can email you. But congratulations to Amy Hardkey on winning the Tableau certification voucher. I will be emailing you right after this meeting with those details. Yay, she says yes. Great, so excited. Okay, so that is all that we have for the giveaway anyways. I don't think that, is there any other slides? Oh, yes, don't forget to connect with us, always. You know, a few people were kind of asking some questions and I just wanted to clear things up in the last few minutes here. So before the pandemic, Patrick here ran the Madison Tableau user group and I ran the Milwaukee Tableau user group, and we had physical in-person meetings once a quarter. We actually, in Q4 of last year, we decided to start a Wisconsin Tableau user group that was totally virtual in order to, you know, be inclusive of everybody else in the state. You know, given the pandemic, all of our meetings have now moved online. So you'll see a lot of stuff. There's Milwaukee, there's Madison, and there's Wisconsin, all with virtual meetings. So I apologize if they're all overwhelming, but that's kind of the evolution of how we got to where we are. So absolutely feel free to join the Madison meetings, the Milwaukee meetings, and the Wisconsin meetings. We're happy to have you at all of them. So that was just my little plug. Here's all the contact info. And I think Patrick's pretty good about following up with you know, slide decks and the links to everything that we've shown here today. So you don't have to try and feverishly type all these things out.
Absolutely. We'll get a follow-up email, but don't hesitate to reach out with any of this contact information or directly to Brandy or myself. We're always happy to hear from you. This is your user group, so we want to make sure that we're presenting information that's relevant to you. And yes, sorry about the confusion with the virtual and in-person. Hopefully we can get back to doing some in-person events in Madison and Milwaukee at some point. But in the meantime, we're providing 3 virtual user groups for the same price.
Right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. And Anushka and Adam, thank you so much for your time today. Fantastic presentations.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone.